Greetings, everyone. I'm Steve McPhail, the Director of Studies at OET Online. Let's look at describe image, an important part of your PTE preparation. So in terms of format, as always, you get the instructions. Let's read them. Look at the image below. In 25 seconds, please speak into the microphone and describe in detail what the image is showing. You'll have 40 seconds to give your response. So that tells you a lot right there. You've only got 25 seconds. It's not a long time. You'll be able to make a few notes, analyze it, but that's all. It says describe in detail. Yes, some detail, but we'll talk more about how much detail shortly, as you've only got 40 seconds to describe that image. It's not a long time. But that is your stimulus. And then you've got another box here, the response status window, and that indicates when to start and stop speaking. So what skills are being tested in describe image? Purely speaking, one skill only. How many tasks? Just 3 to 4. And time allowed, as we just said, 25 seconds prep, 40 seconds to describe it. And what type of task can you expect? Well, you might get different types of graphs, bar graphs, line graphs, or pie charts. Could be tables, could be diagrams or a process chart, perhaps a map, pictures, or a photograph. And we'll look and do a little bit of practice of some different types. How are you assessed? Again, with all the speaking tasks, content, pronunciation, and oral fluency. We know with pronunciation, oral fluency, we have that scale of 1 to 5, as we can see there. Content's a little bit interesting in this case. It's still 1 to 5, and to get 5 points, it says describe all elements of the image. But that doesn't mean every minute detail of the image. It just means the overall trends, the key features. Talk about relationships, possible developments, increases or decreases, and a simple concluding statement of what it may or may not mean. That's how you get top marks. Goes all the way down to 0 or 1. Let's look at 1. Describe some basic elements of the image, but does not make clear their interrelations or implications. So somewhere along the line, you want to be going for these middle to higher numbers. So I'd be looking 4 is good, 4 and above, depending on what your score is. Practice is the key. Having a method or a structure to follow will certainly help you. So what I suggest is read the title, that's important. Read any words that are provided, understand them. Look at the data, you don't have long. You will be thinking on your feet as you go, but try to decide what the key features are and what the trends are, increases, decreases, stability, and so forth. You need to be a little bit careful here and follow what we call the KISS method. It's not romantic. It simply means keep it simple, stupid. In other words, don't try to cover everything that you see. You won't be able to complete it in the 40 seconds, and you won't be able to summarize the overall trends. Okay, let's break it down and do a little bit of work on the language. So we've got some graphical information here, and your first step is to identify the key features. So have a look at this now. Let's see what we can bring up. We can see on the left-hand side, we have numbers of births. We can see on the right, we have age. Along the bottom, we can see a year, and we can see that there are different colors, green and yellow, which have meaning associated with them, and the words are given. So we look at our heading, and that is the number of registered births, the median age of the mother, and the year, right? We've got the year down the bottom. What do these numbers represent? Well, 1950 to 2020 are the years that the graphical information has been collected on. And it's the number of registered births and the median age of the mother for a 1-year period. All right, so you can start to get a little bit of an idea what we're looking at. But how are we going to express that? Let's go to step 3. This is identify the correct phrase. So, for example, in 1950, there were about 190,000 or less than 200,000 births. So we're looking at 1950. It's under 200. So which is the best? Should we say about 190 or less than? Let's use less than. It's a more natural way to speak. In 1950, there were less than 200,000 births. We could also say in 1950, there were just under 200,000 births, rather than trying to put a specific numerical value. Now, we got some options. Which sentence is correct? For that year, the median age of the mothers was, so here's our number, 27.38, 27.38, 27.38 years. How do we say it? Well, the answer is 27.38. So we have to learn the correct way to express decimal points. Let's look at the next one. We're looking at 1990 here. So over 250,000 babies were born, or over 250,000 babies born in 1990 were born or born, active or passive. Well, the babies passive in the birth were born, so we're going to use were born. To mothers with a median age of, and the same pattern here, 28.33. So learning how to express numerical data is one of the skills of the describe image task. That's step 3, everyone. Let's go to step 4. Now we're going to identify changes over time, perhaps some comparisons. And we're going to look at the years with the smallest and largest numbers. So overall, now again, we're identifying what's correct. So looking at these numbers, overall, we're looking at median age. What does this indicate? Drops, then increases. There was a sharp or steady increase. Which word would you choose? In the median age of mothers overall, but there was a slight, significant drop in 1960 and again in 1970. Would you say that was slight or significant? The number of births generally raised over the same period, with a decrease noted in 1980, 2000, and again in 2020. Which phrase is best, rose or raised? Let's have a look. Well, it's not a sharp increase, it's just a steady increase, but there was a slight drop in 1960. So those words slight and steady are accurate here. Rose is the key word. You could also say the number of births generally decreased or increased in this case, but showing a little bit of variety of language. Changes over time. Since 1970, the median age of mothers was increasing, has been increasing. This is a grammar test. Now we're using since 1970. So we're looking from 1970 onwards. So we need to say not was increasing, has been increasing. There's our present perfect. Identifying smallest and largest. So a question for you, when was the median age of mothers lowest? So we follow the yellow line and we see it was 1970. When was it the highest? 2020 is when it was the highest. And when was the number of births the lowest and highest? And again, we can see the number of births it's different. It was 1950 and it was at its highest at 2020. So all that data is available for you. You need the correct grammar to be able to express that information. That's step 4. Step 5, you may have been taking notes. Just a few very basic things, not too much. This bar chart shows. And then you give your introductory statement. There might be some phrases that you can use from the year to the year, the lowest to highest, something dropped, something has been increased. And that's the main description. That's the body. About 25 seconds you want. And then overall, this is what your implications or conclusions are, about 5 seconds. If you add all that up, you've got about 35 seconds, which I think is a good amount of time because you're only given 40 seconds. That gives you just that little bit of leeway at the end. Step 5 is the actual describe image section. So we've got 40 seconds to do this, everyone, the model answer. You can try that yourself now. And as I read it, just challenge yourself, see if you can follow what I'm actually reading on the chart. I'll read from the script to give you a demonstration of language, but see if you can follow what I'm saying on the actual chart. This chart shows the number of registered births and the median age of mothers in Australia from the year 1950 to the year 2020. The number of births in Australia was the lowest in 1950 with less than 200,000 births and the highest in 2010 with more than 300,000 births. The median age of mothers dropped slightly from 1950 to 1970, but it has been steadily increasing since then. Overall, this chart shows 2 important pieces of information regarding the birth rate and median age of mothers in Australia. That's it. That's a challenge, isn't it, everyone? A very challenging task. But if you work at it, develop the skills and practice enough, your delivery will get smooth and you'll be able to do this effectively. But obviously, studying all the samples and reviewing the grammar is part of your skill building. All right, let's look at a different one. So again, we're going to follow our steps. So what are we looking for? Well, firstly, we have to identify the key features. And I've got a few examples here, but there are some gaps missing. So if you're watching this video now, just pause and see if you can fill in these gaps now yourself as to other features that you can see on this chart. Remember, you'll be given 25 seconds to do this. So we've got the heading, the top 5 non-invasive cosmetic procedures in the US in 2020. So I want to have read this one, top 5 non-invasive cosmetic procedures. So for me, that's really a crucial piece of information. Cosmetic procedures, where, United States, and when, 2020. What other information can we see? What do these numbers represent? What are these headings? What are these arrows? Well, let's work it out. They are the names of the non-invasive procedures. They're ordered 1 to 5. We've got the numbers of each procedure here. And we've got an arrow which indicates a change compared with 2019. Step 2, let's look in more detail at these numbers. Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's the order in terms of popularity. And 4.4 million is the number of procedures. And 13% is the change compared with 2019. That's a change. So we've got the detail. And how about pronunciation, everyone? See, I would say botulinum, toxic type A, soft tissue fillers, laser skin resurfacing, chemical peel, intense pulse lighting. Make sure you slow down and Do your best pronunciation by not rushing. Okay, the second step, third step, I should say, is to identify what's being portrayed and any changes. So let's have a look at botulinum toxin and describe laser skin resurfacing. What do we see? 1 to 5 is the order of the top 5 non-invasive procedures where 1 is least or most. Number 1, is it least or most? Most, isn't it? Where 1 is the most popular procedure. 4.4 million is the number of botulinum toxic type A procedures that were performed for our passive. 13% is the change compared with. Make sure you pronounce that ED, compared with 2019. Don't say 2019, I mean, and you can, but it's probably more natural to say 2019. The arrow tells us that it was an increase, decrease. In this case, we would say the arrow tells us it was a decrease, right? So we need to have a decrease. So you get your prepositions correct. Okay, let's look at describe laser skin surfacing. Laser skin resurfacing is the most popular procedure. First, second, third. There were, what can we say? We've got a large number. How do you say that? You can actually read the number. That's probably easiest. But you could also say almost 1 million. But let's read it in full. There were 997,245. That's how we read it. Tricky one. I think I would read this. There were almost 1 million procedures performed. Makes it simpler, but both options are there for you. Last one. There was a what when we compare it to 2019? There was a 8% drop, or there was a decrease of 8% when we compare it to 2019. All right, so that's describing your facts. Step 4, we're ready to speak. We might have made a few notes. We've identified standard statement, image shows, the most popular, the second most popular, the other 3 types, we may not want to mention them all, and overall. Are you ready, everyone? I'll read it aloud. As I read it, what I want you to do is try to follow what's being said. This image shows the top 5 non-invasive cosmetic procedures in the United States in 2020. The most popular type of non-invasive cosmetic procedure was botulinum toxin type A, and 4.4 million procedures were performed in 2020. The second most popular procedure was soft tissue fillers, with 3.5 million of them done in that year. The other 3 types of procedures were laser skin resurfacing, chemical peel, and intense pulse lighting, each with less than 1 million procedures done. Overall, all the top 5 non-invasive cosmetic procedures dropped in demand in 2020 compared to 2019. And we're done. All right, you have a go, everyone. I've given you a model. Now see if you can do this yourself. Cover up the screen, just focus on the image, and I'll give you that opportunity. So have a go at doing this yourself. Practice is the key, then go back and compare with the model letter. How many different ways could you describe it? Let's try one completely off the cuff, everyone. I'll do one now without looking at any script for a demonstration as well. I'll set myself up a little timer. This image shows a chart of the non-invasive cosmetic procedures in the United States in 2020. If we look to the left, the most popular procedure was botulinum toxin type A, with 4.4 million people doing this procedure, although it had dropped by 13% since 2019. The least most popular procedure was intense pulse lighting, with less than 1 million procedures performed, also with a drop of 12%. Other procedures included soft tissue fillers, laser skin resurfacing, and chemical peel. All procedures recorded a significant drop since 2019. What does this indicate? Non-invasive cosmetic procedures are decreasing in popularity. Okay, so lots of ways to do this, everyone. That was just an off-the-cuff example, just to show what can be done. Practice is the key, and I think you need to read and react at the same time. The more you do it, the better you'll get. All right, let's look at a different type of chart, everyone. So something quite different here. We go to our heading first. The effect of caffeine on energy levels. Okay, we read that. We see we're lucky we've got an image, caffeine. And down the bottom, we've got times, 7 a.m., 10 a.m., 2 p.m. So always look at the top, always look at the bottom, get an idea what we're looking at, and then try to follow. We've got this line running through with bits of language here that we're going to have to skim through. It's about energy, caffeine withdrawal. I wouldn't read the fine print, everyone. Read these headings. Afternoon caffeine crash. Can't sleep at night. Okay, so we've got a time continuum describing the impacts of caffeine on our energy levels. Your job, again, step one, identify the key features, which is our heading, and a series of events from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. All right, let's have a look at step two. What does the yellow line represent? Well, I think we know that's our energy levels, isn't it? A person's energy levels throughout the day. Energy levels rise twice, you can see two, to a maximum or a peak. Energy levels fall or drop just once on this chart. Step three, identify what's being described and add any changes or comparisons. For example, what happens, say, at 7 a.m. or 10 a.m.? If you don't drink any tea or coffee when you wake up, you might, there we got a word, caffeine withdrawal. So we have to expand on these notes. If you don't drink any tea or coffee when you wake up, you might have caffeine withdrawal, or you might experience caffeine withdrawal. We're describing that. So really you're expanding on those notes. After the first cup of coffee, there's our time marker. After the first cup of coffee, the energy level rises to a peak. We need a preposition at 10 a.m. or by 10 a.m. And then if we read a bit more, the high energy level might be misleading because you may feel tired, even though you may feel tired. So we've added, that's our interpretation, if you wish, higher level skill. Describe what happens from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Energy levels. So what's going on here? Energy levels decrease, subside. Energy levels drop as the effects of the morning cup of coffee. What happens to the effects? This is our vocabulary. The effects of the morning cup of coffee, and we even have the word, wears off. And you are left feeling tired again, another preposition, by 2 p.m. If you drink more coffee, you may, get an increase of energy level, but perhaps you'll have trouble sleeping at night. So you can follow and use the words as you see. Now, these are examples. We're all going to do these differently. But the standard pattern, everyone, this image shows we've got 7 a.m., 10 a.m. peaks, 2 p.m. crash, and the effect, can't sleep. We've got a verb fluctuate. That's the up and downward motion. And again, timing is important. Our introductory statement, the image description, and then our concluding statement. Now we've got a model answer here. Have a go doing this one you first before you see that model answer. See how you go. Make some notes. All right, now let's compare the model answer. And I'm just going to read this, everyone. This image shows the effects of caffeine on the person's energy levels. At 7 a.m., there might be a caffeine withdrawal because no coffee has been ingested yet. After the first cup of coffee, the effect of caffeine can be felt by 10 a.m. when a person's energy level peaks. However, this is a misleading feeling because the person may actually be tired, but is only feeling energetic because of the caffeine. The bad news is that by 2 p.m., there is usually a caffeine crash as the effects of the morning cup of coffee wears off. Caffeine is thus added, which will bring the person's energy levels up, but can cause the person to not be able to sleep at night. Thus, caffeine can cause our energy levels to fluctuate throughout the day. All right, so that's my model answer, everyone. That's obviously your goal, quite a high level one, but we give you that as a model. And let's see, I'm going to demonstrate an off the cuff, everyone. This is without no other preparation than what we've just shown you. But if I'm going to take the PTE test as well, then I need to be able to perform based on what I see. So let's try it, and I'll use my arrow. So I've done my analysis. All right, I'm going to use my titles. So this image shows the effects of caffeine on energy levels between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. When people wake up in the morning, they often have limited energy levels. Therefore, they drink a cup of coffee, and by 10 a.m., they're going to feel quite energetic, even though they might actually be tired. Following that, we can see that there is a caffeine crash, and by 2 p.m. in the afternoon, people feel their tiredest. In order to combat that, more caffeine can be ingested. However, that may have the effect of not being able to sleep at night. In conclusion, caffeine has a strong impact on our energy levels. There it is. All right. So again, it's practice. All right, we'll do one more today, everyone. And this is an image. It could be a photograph. It could be like a landscape where you really have to describe what you see. So look at what we see here, and we're going to identify the key features. So the heading, we'll use that language, informal table setting. Now we've got labeled items on the table, quite a few, 9 in fact. 9. So you're not going to talk about all 9, but you'll talk about several of them, and you might talk about the location, left, right, top, or bottom. Step 2, we describe the items and their position on the table in relation to the other items. So the plate is in the center of the table setting. There is something on the plate. So we've got on napkin. To the right of the plate, there are 3 pieces of, do you know the word? There are 3 pieces of, not crockery, cutlery. Step 4, we're going to make notes on what we want to say. The image shows, center, next to the left, to the right, in front of, and then in conclusion. Standard timing, we want to do this in about 35 seconds. Let's give it a go. Can you do it? Give you a chance. All right, let's look at our model answer. This image shows an informal table setting. The plate is the centerpiece and has a napkin on it. A flower is placed next to the napkin to make the setting more appealing. To the left of the plate are two forks. One is a dinner fork and one is a salad fork. To the right of the plate are the dinner knife, the soup spoon, and the teaspoon. Two glasses are placed in front of the plate. One glass is for water, the other is for wine. In conclusion, this is a simple and formal table setting with the basic utensils required for a meal. All right, so that's what we're looking at, everyone. Now let's do an off the cuff. The image shows an informal table setting. We can see crockery, including a plate in the center, and above the plate, we can see two glasses, a water glass and a wine glass. Some foliage has been placed around these to give it a nice effect. In terms of cutlery, we can see forks, a knife, and two spoons. We have a napkin which can be used to protect our clothes if we drop any food. In conclusion, it's a nice informal table setting. That's it. Now, it's interesting they call this informal. What do you think, everyone? Looks rather formal to me, but that's the title that we have here. So we stick with what we have. We've got, different features that we can describe. Everyone's going to do it a little bit differently, but we are making use of the words that we have and adding vocabulary if that is in our repertoire. Practice, as always, is the key. A few handy tips to wrap this one up, everyone. Let's go through these. In the 25 seconds prep time, just identify those key features from the image. Make a few notes to help organize your description, but if you prefer to go off the cuff, then follow that method. See what works for you. When speaking, avoid hesitations and sentence restarts. Unfortunately, you'll get penalized there, but if you do make a hesitation or have to restart, don't dwell on it, just move forward, right? You've got more opportunities coming. Silence is not good because it will impact on your fluency. Do your best to aim for grammatical accuracy when describing things. Don't bother about correcting any content errors. If you do make a mistake, just move on. Perhaps the computer won't notice. Focus on the main ideas and avoid less relevant details. As we said earlier, you've only got 40 seconds to describe it. Make sure you record yourself and then compare your response with the model answer. Now, we've got a range of tasks on the website, and we've got model answers for each one. You don't have to speak like the model answer, but it's there to give you a guide, and it's there to give you language. So remember, our model answers, they're actually off a transcript. We've deliberately done it that way so that you've got something to work on. But as you've seen by my demonstration today, we can quite naturally just speak off the cuff. And that's what I want you to work on. Speaking off the cuff, describing images. The more you do it, the better you will get. As they say, practice makes perfect. So over to you. Check out the great tasks on this page, and I'm sure your skills will improve and you'll be able to perform well in what is actually quite a fun section when you get into it.